So here we're going to multiply radical expressions by rationalizing the denominator. So I've got the square root of 2 and the square root of 3 on the bottom. They're both irrational numbers, so we need to get rid of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by the same thing we see on the bottom, except with a different sign. So I have plus in between. I'm going to put minus in between. So that'll give us the numerator, which is 5 times this guy right here. And of course, we can just put parentheses around and everything if we want to represent our multiplication. So we distribute our 5 in, and that gives us 5 square roots of 2 minus 5 square roots of 3. Now, the denominator, we have to FOIL this out. On the first problem, I'll FOIL it out for you. On the rest of the problems, you need to think about how I'm FOILing that out. So you do this on each problem. So square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the first. The inner terms, square root of 2 times 3. The outer terms are negative square root of 2 times square root of 3. And the last terms are negative square root of 3 times square root of 3. So the numerator, now there's not a whole lot we can do with that right now. But the denominator, what you'll notice here is that the middle terms cancel out, and I've got square root of 2 times square root of 2, which is 2. Again, these guys are gone. And minus square root of 3 times square root of 3, which is just 3. So that gives me 5 root 2 minus 5 root 3 over negative 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that negative and I'm going to move it to the top, the one in front of the negative 1. So I'm going to rewrite that as this negative. Well, let's go ahead and write this thing down here. I put a negative out in front, which means I got to put parentheses around because it's got to apply to the whole thing. So that gives me negative 5 square roots of 2 plus 5 square roots of 3 over 1, which is just that guy right there, which if we rewrite the order, we get this right here, and that's our final answer. So this trick, when our denominator is negative, we'll end up doing this quite frequently. So you'll see I'll do it on the rest of the problems as well. So again, we'll multiply the bottom and the top by the opposite sign of what's in the bottom. So square root of 5 plus square root of 7. And that, you'll notice, will get rid of the denominator as far as being an irrational number. It'll make it rational. So we've got negative 4 times the square root of 5 plus negative 4 times the square root of 7. Again, we're distributing there. Go back and look at the last example if you don't know why I just did that. And here we'll do the bottom, but remember on the last problem, the inner terms canceled out. Well, it's going to happen here as well. So all I need to concern myself is with the first and the last terms multiplied together. So that'll give me square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Square root of 7 times square root of 7 is 7. So it would give me 5 minus 7. So I have negative 4 square roots of 5 minus 4 square roots of 7 over negative 2. We'll bring that negative up to the top. So we've got negative 4 square roots of 5 minus 4 square roots of 7 over positive 2, because we brought the negative up. Distribute the negative in, we get 4 square roots of 5 plus 4 square roots of 7 over 2. And now we're just going to make sure that we can't simplify, which we can if I pull a 2 out of 2 times 2 square roots of 5 plus 2 square roots of 7 over 2. And now those 2's can cancel out because there's multiplication in between. So my final answer is 2 square roots of 5 plus 2 square roots of 7. Okay, same procedure here. We'll multiply top and bottom by the opposite of what we see in the denominator. So that'll be square root of 2 plus square root of 3 on the numerator and the denominator. That'll rationalize our denominator for us. Okay, opposite signs there. So the top becomes square root of 2 plus square root of 3 times square root of 2 plus square root of 3. Denominator, okay, again the inner terms are going to cancel out. So we just multiply the first 2 together and get 2, the last 2 together and get 3, so it's minus 3, just like that. And now we have to FOIL out the numerator here, so we've got 2 plus, so that's the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. And then we've got the inner terms, the outer terms, and now the last terms multiplied together. You should go through that and make sure you can FOIL that guy out. So that gives us 2 plus 3 And then I've got 2 of those square root of 2's times square root of 3's. So that'll give me 5 plus 2 square roots of 6 over negative 1. And let's just make the denominator positive because that's pretty typical to do. So we'll have 5 plus 2 square roots of 6 over 1. We don't have to write that. So that'll give us negative 5 minus 2 square roots of 6. And that's our final answer. Okay, now let's take this guy over here. We'll multiply top and bottom by 1 minus. The square root of 6, again, we look at the denominator and we say what's the opposite. So it's 1 minus the square root of 6. And when I'm saying opposite, we're really talking about the conjugate. Okay. So, but opposite's fine. It gets us to where we need to go now. The middles cancel out, so it's the first guy multiplied by the first guy minus the second guy multiplied by the second guy. So there we go. And so the numerator, when we get all that worked out, it'll be 1 minus 2 square roots of 6 plus 6 over negative 5. So our numerator becomes 7 minus 2 square roots of 6 over negative 5. We'll take that negative and put it back into the top now. So we got to make sure that we apply to both terms. So over positive 5. And so that'll become negative 7 plus 2 square roots of 6 over 5. And a lot of times we'll write that in this order right here. So there's our final solution.